Here we go. All right. Welcome everybody, and thank you for coming to witness, share and celebrate our work. Art's a strange business in many respects. A manager doesn't call her friends together and ask them to come and watch her manage a project. And builders rarely throw open a newly finished building and throw a party so his mates can see what he's been doing. Yet artists ask and even pester their friends, family and colleagues to come and view the results of their recent labours. So thank you once again for indulging us. Displayed around you are the artworks of 7 very individual people, and over the last 2 weeks we've highlighted different artists every day. Today's focus is on Lynn Elzinga Henry and Karen Sealander. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Lynn.
Well, I just missed the first bit of it. I just have to say first of all what a pleasure it is to be part of this group. I've not known really anybody except Kate, who's popped up through gardening interests. Kate's sister is on the Mediterranean Garden Committee, and having an artist as a sister and then meeting up in my studio, we found a lot in common. So I was, thrilled to be able to be part of this group and hopefully do more things. Knowing that Karen Sealander is one of my favourite artists, I was so excited to know that she was going to be on the same day as me. Unfortunately, she's not here, but I just thought I'm going to talk about the way life events impact on what you end up doing, because I think that's probably pertinent to everybody, but maybe particularly to both of us. I started, as Kate alluded to, in a kimono factory in the 70s. I had the opportunity, I wasn't really going for art, I just had this epiphany. I walked into this place with the woman I was staying with. I was there for a year, and the whole floor was just filled with kimono fabrics. So the rolls, they're woven, they're about this wide, and then there was display of the kimonos and the beauty of the fabrics. And then this particular place, you went down, there's various levels. So you went down a level and they had the finishes. So there was the people that put the embroidery on and the last minute bits, and then there was the, below that there was the technique. So there was 2 techniques that used in that factory. It was the printing, which they printed the fabric. But the way they did that, they used pieces of mulberry paper, which were impregnated with persimmon juice to make them quite resistant. And then they screen printed through a rice paste and that's how they did that. And for the dyeing part, and this is what I learned, we actually used funnels made from the same mulberry paper, impregnated with persimmon juice, turned into a little funnel, and we fitted a little nib on the end, and then we put rice paste into that funnel, and then you roll it all up like this, and you hold it and squeeze out this rice paste, following the traditional designs of that place. Now fortunately, I could speak Japanese a bit, so I was able to take classes. That was right down the basement, and so I did, because I just thought, this is what I want to do, I must do this, it's so beautiful, the colours. And I spent about 7 months. The actual technique that I learned was the colours were true to nature, so you had to, if it might have been a particular flower, you had to make exactly that colour, and that was a lot of the time spent. I spent 7 months just mixing little powders. You mix them make up the dye, you just have a little spoon, these lovely little white bowls over a little burner, and you'd add your powders until you got exactly the right colour. And you only had like this because it was direct dyeing. And we had, all our brushes were handmade, stitched together, held with like this. I can't explain it. I still have some, 40 years old, and they're still terrific. And then we weren't allowed to actually do our own designs because that was another person's role. So I spent one time, I think a week, trying to draw. I had to draw bamboo. I still didn't master it. They gave up on me because it's pretty hopeless. Anyway.
You spent 30 years learning how to draw bamboo though.
Well,
that's it.
Exactly.
That's it.
And I did ask, and the way we put, everything was done, not like here where you stretch stuff and paint it. There, you had bamboo or cane pieces with little metal bits in the end. And so you stretched that with silk, and then you got the requisite number of canes with the little pricks in the end to hold them out. And then you tied it all together at the back. So you had this like a little piece. And then if you were doing longer bits, they actually had sort of rollers, and you would sit, kneel on the floor, and it would come down and you'd paint like that. So that's the way I learnt. And even when later I was doing really big pieces of silk, I always just used to suspend them on a dowel, sew it on, and then I just have it quite loose, and I'll just walk into the silk to paint. And I guess because no one taught me differently, it worked for me. That's what I did. So I came back, started doing this marvellous technique, and I started selling in galleries because no one was really doing this. No one knew about it. This was 40 years ago. So silk painting was quite new here. And I was in Canberra at the time, and then in the 80s we moved to South Australia. And I was sort of selling things to galleries, and I was thinking, I should be commercial about this. You know, I need to make my living. I'll have to paint what people want. I should be doing, I don't know, you know, and I was painting these flowers, which at that time were not my thing at all. And then we had the bushfire, the 83 bushfire, and all of our place, the house was safe, but the whole 2.5 acres of garden and my studio, all burnt, nothing, white ash, and special pieces, because we'd only moved in 2 weeks before, special doors and glass windows and stuff that we hadn't had for the house, they're all gone. And then I thought, you know, what's the point of doing stuff when it could just go? Why not, if you're going to do something, and you might go, don't spend your life doing what you think other people want you to do. You need to do what you want to do. And the funny thing is, the more you love what you work, if it's something that you really love, then there'll be other people that love that too. And that's basically the principle on which I started doing work and selling, you know, really quite well. I was selling in galleries all around the place, and when I got sick of that after about 15 years, it was more project-based, did installations, touring shows for the Festival Theatre, the Migration Museum, some public artwork with various people translating imagery onto ceramics, and that also was when I fell in love with glass as well, because fabrics are so fabulous, and silk with the dyes is translucent and the colours flow, and yet there wasn't anything outside that I felt captured that same thing. And I couldn't leave my fabrics outside because they would deteriorate. So when I saw glass, I thought, this is, again, it's a perfect way of having this beautiful flow and colour that can be outside. So that was really how that started to come about. And then, relatively recently, 5 years ago, my son, who was also having bright ideas about everything, was in Argentina, and he was wanting to start import businesses, and he decided he was going to do leather bags. He was in Buenos Aires, and I thought, how can he import leather bags, handbags, women's handbags? I need to go over and give him a bit of a hand there, I think. So I went over there, and about a week or 2 weeks before I went, he said, "Mum, would you design some ties?" And I thought, what? Ties? You know, not very interested. He said, yes, you know, he loved suits, he loved ties. He wanted to have good ties. I thought, oh, I'll think about it. And I went over there, and there was a funny thing about this, because a year before that I'd broken one foot, and it just didn't seem to really get better. So even when I went there, I took a bandage, and, you know, to wrap up my foot so I could walk around. And then when I was in Buenos Aires, I got up one day and I was finding I put the bandage on, foot was really hurting. Then I thought, it wasn't the same foot, actually. It's the other foot. So I had two bandages, so some days I went both feet bandaged. I thought, this is bizarre. Anyway, that was all right. So I started doing these, started designing these ties. Didn't have any idea, which again is a great advantage. I just sort of thought, did a tie shape and thought, oh, to do this. And Ramon got on the net and got all these places all around the world who said that they could do weaving. And I did up a bit of a design. We sent it off, and, you know, we had ended up, I think it was 25 companies, narrowed it down to 5, Taiwan, different places, and that all sort of started. And then I got back to Australia. He did do some handbags, but that didn't go anywhere. I got back to Australia and I thought, oh, you know, I don't really know what I'm doing. Started to get some samples coming back in. And then I still was having trouble with these feet. And normally I'm quite an energetic person. Got a big garden, I work big, but the feet were getting really worse and worse. I went to find out what was wrong. I had aggressive rheumatoid arthritis. I could hardly walk. I could hardly get up to the studio. And if I did get up to the studio, which is right at the top of the hill, if I had to go to the toilet, that was it for the day. Because by the time I got down, I couldn't get up again. So I used to have to walk around a long way. But the point is, without that, I never would have sat down at the table. My hands were fine. So I could sit there and go through this painstaking job of making a design for a woven silk tie. Because this is a big size for a repeat. That's all you've got. And the particular technique that I'm using here, which is a high needle jacquard loom to make the weave the fabric, it's not the normal machine. So there's only very, very few of them, and there's a lot of restrictions because you can only have a maximum of 5, but preferably only 4 colours. So with me, I love colour. I want to get lots of colour and richness. So it's a real, you know, that's one big restriction. You have to work out what colours can I use. Next restriction is, because of the technique, you have the warp is one of your colours. And because I only do limited edition, I can only get on the end of somebody else. They won't warp up the machine for me because I do too little. So not only do I spend days and days working out what colours, but then I have to email and say, what colours are on the wall? And they'll say, oh, we've only got black or blue. And I go, oh, what am I going to do? So I have to wait, or they might change at the last minute, and I've got to try and rework that idea. So it is limiting, but by the same token, I love that. All those intricate problems that it comes from trying to design like that, and what can they do, and sending the fabric comes back and forth, and no, it's not good, that's okay, or whatever. It's very rewarding, and I have to say, now I'm quite addicted to it. I love the fact that I can get texture as well as design and colour that I just did with the painting. So, I will continue, even though my arthritis is much better, and I can actually get back and do some of those things again. I'm thankful to it. I'm thankful to all those opportunities that life throws up that changes what you do and gives you an opportunity to, extend yourself.
Absolutely.
So, thank you, Kate. Sorry.
No, that's fantastic. No, that's excellent. And I just point out that when she does her obi ties, they're completely reversible with an entirely different pattern, so that you can turn it and create a different look each time. And I find them, you can see how Len's wearing hers and I'm wearing mine in a different way, but I find them fascinating, and they're wearable pieces of art, and each one of them is individual. There's never two of the obi ties done the same, and the ties are all limited editions also, so they really are something that's rare in today's society in terms of clothing, to be able to wear a piece of art that has this much amount of thought and detail and value for a traditional process in an innovative way.